Good morning.
Good evening. We're
You're
live.
oh yeah,
Welcome back.
James. You're at the end of the street. It's already evening over there, right?
Yeah, we're in different time zones in our
So
mind. Yeah,
what was that?
there's some water running. Um, so we were going to talk today a little bit about what's going on in the restaurant world. There's actually lots to say.
Yeah,
It's a very uncertain time for those
messed up.
people, anybody that has any connection to the restaurant world, because it's not just servers and restaurateurs, but it's also all the people that supply restaurants. There are a lot of manufacturers that basically most of their business or all of their business is food service and restaurants, and that one day that just ended,
Right.
and it's turned everything upside down. I mean, some of it's starting to come back because the smart ones, the savvy ones, are turning their business more to retail. And then, of course, a lot of the restaurants are doing takeout, so they are buying some materials, but nothing like what it was just 2 months ago.
No, and so I know the restaurant people know that, and you can see all the posts out there that restaurant can't make it on a lower capacity. But I want to make sure the public understand that right now nobody is really making money. We're just kind of like angling to to do something, to sell food, to keep our kitchens growing, because all the machine needs to get going, the chef needs to be working so they don't get crazy. But that change is not what we originally started. When you do a business plan, you look at your capacity, how many people you can bring, and then you see how much you should charge for the meal. That gives you the total. But now, if you have to reduce that capacity by 50%, you can absolutely not make it. So a lot of restaurants, what's going to happen is they're going to not open, because if they open with low capacity, they're going to lose money. So
Right.
the question now is, do you want to still try to get open and get? Some people make money. Some people make a few $1,000s a day. It covers all the expenses. That's great, but they can't hire all the staff they used to have, because now they have to work on a minimum staff. So it is possible, and if that thing lasts, which I know it won't, but if it would, then we would have to reconsider the restaurant business entirely, and that would be a whole different business. Yes.
It would be very sad because it's a beloved business
Oh my God, that, yeah,
as
it
well
would
as a
be terrible.
major industry. The restaurant industry is like $1 billion a year business in America. So,
Well,
not
it's
to
a
mention,
big business. It's they are the largest employer in the U.S. under the government. So I think they
yeah,
employ almost 10% of the population, which is huge. It's huge,
yeah,
huge, huge.
yeah. And this is true around the world. It's not just here,
Yeah,
but
right, right.
everywhere. And
So
like you say, even if they're able to reopen, but with if they have to take out half their tables, well,
possible,
they're
possible.
not going to be able to hire all the staff back. It's going to have to be
Yeah.
a skeleton crew. And right now, there's some subsidies going on. There's
Yeah.
some loans going to restaurants to help them rehire people, but it's
The
hard.
loans are not clear, because you have to use it specifically for some stuff, and if you can't,
Right,
you have to give it back. If not, you owe that money. So people are
right,
very worried about spending that money.
right, right. Like 75% of it has to go to payroll, which is fine and that's
Yeah,
great, but
right,
it's difficult to do because, like at Cesar, we're you
right.
know only a couple people are needed to do this takeout
I
business, so
know. What do
it's
you hire them for? Yeah.
it's hard to spend the money. If you
So
if you don't, it's a low interest loan, but of course your objective is to use it in the right way so that it just gets canceled. It just becomes a grant.
so the
And
idea is, now you should take advantage of that money and see if you can hire people to do work for the future, get your business set up for the in the next few months when everything comes back.
yeah,
Or you can keep that money. Hopefully they're going to change the way you can spend it, and then you have cash on hand. It's very difficult to plan. that's few options you can do. But you could definitely start working on stuff that you were supposed to do. Hire
Right.
your team right now, make them do stuff. So this is ready when you reopen. So that's one way
And
to look
another
at it.
option too, you can take the loan, the entire loan, and run off to the South Sea Islands and disappear.
Yeah,
Someplace where you could live very cheaply and you just live the rest of your life and they'd never find you.
very cheaply for a very long time though.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Depends on your age. You know, if you're 30, you got to plan for longer.
right.
If you're 70, nah, not so much. So,
But we'll adapt. Everybody is gonna have to adapt, and that's it. And I think things will get to back to normal at some point. But when? That's what we don't know. It's gonna take a few months from now, and then before people get super comfortable, it's gonna take a little bit of time. But we live with bacteria and virus. We need them. If we remove 100% of them, we'll all die anyway. So we have to be careful with that.
yeah.
I mean, this is kind of like how we evolve. So you have to. There's a, let's
Ah!
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it will change. It will change for a long time. It may get back to normal someday, if
I
there's a
mean,
vaccine, and but
yeah.
who's to say another one won't come along? So
So they are talking more and more about the immune system and how to make sure people are healthy. And I'm kind of happy to see that because now they are really considering also the fact to instruct people or make sure they understand. And what we have to fix is that food supply that completely disgusting. We need
yeah,
to fix that. Once we fix the food supply, we're gonna go back to normal. Everybody, just like diseases are gonna come down, everything is gonna be fine. But we have to get that food clean
yeah.
and real again. And we move all the crap. We move all this big, all this crappy food. We should not buy that anymore. But
There was
how do you how do you explain that to people? Like,
an article in the paper about how these pork producers were going to have to start, slaughtering animals because they there's the market is gone and they can't. But the picture they showed was this giant. It was a big building, a giant pen just packed with full-grown pigs. I mean, they were just packed right up against each other, and I
you
just
should
thought,
not eat that. Nobody should eat
that's
that.
the problem. That's how can you raise animals that way? How have we allowed people to build
Right.
an industry where animals are raised that way?
Yeah.
Uh,
No way. No way. No way. No. So people have to make a choice with their dollar and start buying the food that has been well farmed, and so we have make sure the animals are happy at least during their life. I mean, all their life until they die. That's the
yeah,
best we can do, right?
I mean that's what we hope for ourselves. Why wouldn't we hope it for these poor
Yeah,
animals that come
exactly.
under
We
control?
live, we live, we live, and then boom, bye bye.
And the reason it's been allowed to go on is because people just don't know, or they don't pay
Right.
attention, they don't see it.
Yeah. They
You
think
know,
it's okay. It's not okay. When you buy cheap meat, you can't buy cheap meat. There's no cheap meat. There's no cheap food.
right?
So
And I
that
think most people, if they had to see that every day, they would buy differently, but they don't.
most people understand. The thing is, we're talking about. You always see the media and all this big mainstream stuff, but when you talk to people personally, they all want good food. They all want to be healthy. Everybody wants that. There's just some people don't have access to it. That's all.
Right.
They really want it. And misinformation is another issue that we have to deal with, but that's
Well, and
another.
when you can buy a hamburger for 99 cents and you don't have much money to feed your family,
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
hard to say no.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
well, it's all the more reason why people that can afford to pay more for food should.
Yeah.
There's no excuse if you make a good living. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
excuse for bragging about how cheap your
And
food is.
also, you make the producer work more. It's very important.
Right.
It's a whole machine.
Right.
You sponsor, your money is going into more of that. But if you spend less, it's going to be less and less, and we're going to be done.
That's right.
Yes. So good.
All right. So, how strict are you with use by dates? Someone wanted to know how strict
Wow.
should they be? Is it safe to eat food that's expired?
I mean,
Uh, That's a funny
It,
question because,
in France, we don't care
yeah,
as much. We don't care as much. Like we're gonna try the food. Here in the US, you have to really comply because of all the lawsuits and anything that can happen. But when you look at something, we have to put dates of peramption. Is that what you say, peramption? Like when it's done?
yeah,
Because by indication, you wanna have a sense of when that dish is gonna be, But everything that's cooked will last at least a week to 10 days in the fridge.
right,
If it was well cooled, you see, if it was not cooled properly, that thing is gonna go bad in a few days. If
right,
it was cooled properly, it can last up to 2 weeks. I don't know. Like it's possible. Everything that's cooked in the juice, there is no air coming in. It's almost sous vide, not really, but sous vide lasts, a long time. It's all about the oxygen. And then the dish, you try them, and if they are a little spicy or fermented, then they're not good. So spicy fermented is not good.
hmm,
If it tastes fresh, it's good. So weak, no problem. The date on yogurt, I don't think that matters because yogurt are already, cheese. Bacon, you can smell when it goes bad. The bacon, even if it's smoked,
right,
you can kind of, so you can smell your food. And I always say when you're sick, when you have a flu or when you have a cold and you can't smell stuff, you have to be very careful with your food. Like this is because you can't smell.
right,
And that's where it's dangerous because you could have very well something bad in the fridge for whatever reason. It could happen anytime and you will never know. And that sucks. So when you're sick or when you have a cold or anything, you need to really, really be careful with your food.
right, right. But assuming your olfactory system is functioning
Yeah,
properly, you buy a quart of milk and you smell it, you know if it's good or
right.
not. Uh,
Exactly. The
I think
milk is,
due-by dates are good to pay attention to when you're buying something.
yeah,
Obviously, you don't want to buy something that the expiration date is tomorrow if it's
or,
something you expect to last for several days.
yeah, or yesterday.
Yeah, that's even worse. But you also have to remember that manufacturers, when they put on a use by
Yeah,
date, they're not going to put on the date for when the last possible day you
yeah,
could conceive of eating this product.
yeah.
There's going to be a window there because they don't want lawsuits. I mean, that's why they put the date on there anyway, is to avoid lawsuits. So
They have to before they have to. Like, it's a health code. You have to put dates on most
yeah, they
products
have to.
as
And
long as they are perishable. But
yeah,
like a jam, I don't think you have to put date on jams and stuff like that. You
well,
may,
a lot
I
of
forgot.
packaged foods do, and I think with packaged foods, I think you have a lot more leeway. With dairy products, like you say, you can tell in a minute if something's bad. You're not going to eat it. And meat. It's like,
Yeah,
what do they say? If your meat is red, if your meat is pink, it's good. If it's green, not so much.
right. So food smell, and what you smell in most food is the bacterial activity. So it
Hmm.
doesn't mean it's bad all the time. It just means it's time to ferment. And there's a point where the fermentation goes beyond, and the bacteria develop toxins, and those toxins can't be cooked off. So once the food is bad, it doesn't matter how much you cook it, those toxins cannot be eliminated. This is the problem. You see,
Hmm.
bacteria are not an issue because they cook off, but once they make toxins, those toxins cannot be removed. And
Yeah,
that's the bad stuff. This is how the food breaks down and starting to be bad
and
for
you know,
us.
a good rule of thumb is when in doubt, throw it out. If
Definitely.
you're just not sure. I mean, we bought some shrimp once, and we were going to eat it that night. And I opened the package, and
Oh yeah.
the smell hit me in the face. I mean, it
Yep.
was so
Yeah.
vile. I won't say where I got it, but
Oh shit. So if it smells something that is, you have to understand that your nose is super trained. That you recognize or not is another story. But I tell you, when you smell something and you're not excited about it,
yeah,
you're not eating that.
no.
Don't eat it. It's already been analyzed and
And I think certainly when you're buying meat, especially when you're buying prepackaged meat in that sort
yeah.
of a grab and go, you should look at the package date. You know, you don't want you want
The color. I mean, the color is pretty. Even though
color.
Now they put a bunch of stuff in the thing so it stays red.
Yeah,
Now cheap meat they put a bunch of stuff so it stays really red and pretty. So now you don't know anymore if it's good.
right.
That's why you want to go to places like Berkeley Ball, Magnani Butcher, a good butcher, any butcher. There's this guy right at the corner,
The local butcher.
local butcher, super cool. Also on College, what's that name?
Oh,
Bruges? No,
I can't remember. Is it where Magnani's used to be up there?
no, on College. College.
Oh,
It's a super butcher next to Claremont.
oh. I don't know the name of that one.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. Actually, I'm gonna find the name.
It's too far away from me. I go to the local butcher because he's local. I wonder if you live like if you lived in LA, would you call him the local butcher? I don't. He'd have to.
Fair.
Huh. I don't think I've ever been there.
Really? Oh yeah, yeah. Very, very nice. A real butcher, really good.
Nice.
I don't know if I have a website to show you. No.
Well, anyway,
Yeah,
I've
anyway,
forgotten what we were talking about. Use by dates. Buy good meat.
yeah.
Buy good food. Um,
Well, you also Marine Sun and all this good stuff, of course. But
right. Market Hall has a good butcher over
Market
there in
Hall,
Rockbridge.
absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic food. They pricey, but so good quality.
yeah. So, we talked once about expensive food, like what's the most expensive food, and certainly saffron is, I think wins the title. But someone asked, "What is vanilla, and why is it so expensive?"
Right.
And
Well, vanilla, yeah.
it's I think it's second only to saffron as the most expensive spice. Um,
So you see the vanilla right here.
I
So
do.
you have to buy the bean, and inside the bean you have those little glands, those little sacs, and that's where the vanillin, the oil is, and all the nice goodies.
Yeah, really good stuff.
So
It's,
one one of those costs between 10 and 20 bucks. One stick.
and the reason is they're hard to grow.
Yeah,
Uh,
makes sense.
it takes 2 to 4 years to grow the plant, and then the flowers only bloom one day a year, and they have to be pollinated that day.
Crazy,
Otherwise,
huh?
otherwise it won't produce beans. So Mexico is the only place. Mexico is where they're originally from, and Mexico is still the only place. Speaking of talking about terroir, it's the only place where that will go on naturally. They get pollinated by hummingbirds and bees and things, but it's the only place where the natural pollination still works and the
Oh
vanilla
yeah.
grow.
What about Madagascar? What the
Well, that's interesting because
Yes.
I think it was in the 16th century or maybe later, an apothecary in England got the idea that vanilla could be used as a spice on its own, because up to that point it was only used in conjunction with chocolate, because that's how they saw the Aztecs using it. So some bright guy took it to Madagascar because he figured it's a similar climate and they should be able to produce this there. And they tried and tried and tried, but it just didn't work until a guy named Edmund Albius, who's actually a former slave from there, he figured out a way to hand pollinate
Wow.
these vanilla plants, which
Oh
are
wow.
orchid. And so now that's how they do it. And now the Madagascar and the neighboring islands around there,
Shit, that's crazy.
collectively, it's known as Bourbon Vanilla, because that one of the islands is Reunion, and it used to be called Bourbon Island. They produce like 2/3 of the world's vanilla
Yeah,
now.
right. And it's a really good vanilla.
It is good vanilla.
And
They say the
so
Mexican vanilla is still the best, but it's very expensive and it's not produced in anywhere near the quantities as the stuff from Madagascar. They also produce it in Tahiti, which is it's good but not as good.
yeah, Tahiti, yeah. Oh my God, the tiare, the
And
good oil they make for the
Uh-huh. And interestingly enough, the word vanilla, uh, it was named, vanilla is not what the Aztecs called it, but the name comes from the same Latin root as it's basically derives from vagina, which
Wow.
means a sheath, to enclose something. So just one more reason that vanilla is a very sexy, seductive food.
True.
When it first went to Europe, it was only used with chocolate because that's all they knew to do with it. They saw the Aztecs used to drink it in their chocolate, and
Crazy, huh?
it's still most chocolate uses vanilla to add flavor. Oh, there they
Yeah.
are.
So those are the beans,
Okay.
and you can. It's an orchid, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's an orchid, and it's also the family of the legumes. So what's in there is a bean again.
right, right.
It's
And
very
because
fragrant, and you have to.
it's grown in that belt around the Earth, around near the equator, because
Right.
that's the only place they'll grow.
So you have to eat that from vanilla. You don't want to eat you don't want to buy the fake stuff because vanilla is extremely good for a lot of things. It's also good for antidepressant. It helps you
Oh, really?
relax. Yeah, all these oils, all this stuff like rosemary, vanilla, lavender, they have they triggers a response in your brain for many actions, lots of action. Rosemary could be good, for example, for trigger memory areas. So when people are studying, they can smell the rosemary, and that helps because those are electrical signal. They keep going back and forth to the brain, and the brain just act upon those. Vanilla is a antidepressant. I forgot the like lavender. Lavender very strong. Bergamot also is a antidepressant.
Also, roses, really fragrant.
Yeah,
They're good to have at your
agree.
bedside.
Yeah.
They're
So because they can trigger GABA, the GABA neuron to release GABA. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that are happening with the plants. Plants are phenomenal, and vanilla has to be real because the fake vanilla could be a problem in your health.
Well, it's just a manufactured product, so it really doesn't, and it doesn't taste nearly as good. It's
No, but
cheap.
it's synthetic. So you have to understand that, and this is something I read the whole thing on vanilla one day from this PhD in molecular biology, and he was just going into the detail of like all the kinks and all the formula, and he was saying that basically fake vanilla could induce the brain to do stupid stuff like other stuff because of the signal. It's a different signal.
Right.
So once you start to, it's like it's exactly the thing of like when they put hormones in milk or toxin or there's toxin in stuff. It's they always study the toxins by themselves, and
Mhm.
yes, they are safe. True, they don't know how it works when they're all together.
Uh,
That's the problem. It's not the toxins by themselves or the hormones by themselves. It's when they mix with other stuff that is not natural. What does it do then? This is the problem we have. So
we
they can, yeah,
we should point out that fake vanilla is different than vanilla extract, which is real vanilla that's been suspended in some
a
sort
good
of
one, a good vanilla extract
alcohol. Like
is expensive.
Nielsen Massey is a
Oh yeah.
great name to know.
Uh,
They make amazing products.
so
They
the
sell vanilla beans, but they also make their own extract.
yeah,
So if it just says vanilla flavoring
yeah.
or artificial vanilla flavoring, yeah, just skip it.
Anything
The
you want to
price.
be look, you want to be careful in food with everything or anything that says natural flavors.
Hmm.
Natural flavors doesn't mean anything at all.
It
Really,
means,
it doesn't.
that they made it with the same chemical composition of the real thing, but they did it in the
Absolutely.
laboratory.
Yes.
And that's an amazing science, how they can take these molecules and put them together and suddenly it tastes like lemon,
Yeah.
but it's not actually from a lemon. So yeah, anytime you see natural flavings, it's very
Yeah.
deceiving on food labels.
No, it's not it's not real. So natural means they can actually take artificial stuff and make whatever. So
Right.
this is not a good idea.
Made in a laboratory.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some good things made in laboratories, but I can't
Yeah.
think of them right offhand, but I'm
Look,
sure
look
there
at
are.
me. Look at me, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
100% made of cartilage and I have no bone, and I wiggle a lot.
So I have a cooking question from a
Oh,
student that
great.
wants to know what does deglazing mean and why should he do it? Why should one deglaze a pan? And is it
Don't
the same as
don't
a
do it.
reduction?
Don't do it. Deglazing is so basically the glaze. It's that thick stuff on the bottom of the pan when you cook meat or vegetables. You have some type of browning.
It's
It's
where
it's
it
a
sort
salt.
of stuck to the pan, right?
Yeah, yeah. So deglazing means you're gonna add liquid to rehydrate that bed that was basically reduced to almost a solid. And what you do is you add liquid to rehydrate it to make a sauce. So it looks like a glaze because it's thick when you reduce it again, and
Right.
that's deglaze. You should
So
always deglaze, yeah.
it's different than a reduction, but you do reduce it when
Yeah.
you do it. You pour in the liquid and you
Right.
reduce that liquid. And I always also kind of then once the liquid's in there and it's hot, I use a spatula and I kind of scrape the bottom of the pan because all that stuff's got great flavor.
Yeah. So this stuff rehydrate and redistribute in the water, then you reduce it again. Now you have to in a sauce that we make for hours, you keep adding wine or adding liquid, stocks and wine. And every time you add some liquid, that's going to reduce to its compound. So if it's wine, it's going to be more acidic. If it's stock, it's going to be more of the meaty flavor. So every time you do that and you reduce, you add and you add and you add. That's why when you reduce a sauce, you add, you reduce, add, reduce, add, reduce, add, reduce, add, reduce. The more you do that, the more intense the sauce is going to be. It takes for a long time. It takes hours and hours. But that's how you get those sauces in restaurants.
Yep.
5, 6, 7 hours.
But even at home,
Yeah,
often I cook something in a pan. I'll pour whatever wine I'm drinking. I'll pour in the pan.
that's a quick pan sauce.
Yeah, and then you just
Perfect.
let it heat up and it reduces down by about half. You can add a little more because if you've cooked meat, you want that meat to rest for a few minutes anyway before you
At
slice
least
it.
5 minutes. Yeah, at least 5 minutes.
So that's a great time to do to deglaze your pan. And also for home cooks, when I deglaze a pan, it's so much easier to clean that pan
Well, you
afterwards.
clean the pan. You
Yeah,
are
you're
cleaning.
basically cleaned it. Like with
So,
cast iron, after I cook a steak, when I deglaze the pan, it's clean. I mean,
so you want to rest. You want to rest the steak a few minutes.
yeah,
3, 4 minutes, depending on the size. But meanwhile, you do your quick sauce pan, and you reduce that once. You add butter. Put that steak back, or put the sauce on it. Serve.
I
Very easy.
I reduce the liquid in the pan, and then I shut the heat off,
And then
take
you
it
put the butter.
off the heat, and then I throw a nice little knob of butter in there and whisk
Absolutely.
it, and
Beautiful.
then pour it right on the.
Yep.
I usually pour it right over the steak.
Maybe yep, I'll do a demo of the sauce maybe next sometime soon.
Good, good.
Cool.
We'll cook a
Yeah.
steak. Show them how to cook a steak, and then we can have steak for lunch.
I did a video on steak. Did I post it? I
No,
did I did a very good steak video. Very simple, very basic. You can't miss it. I mean, seriously, like I'll find it. I'm gonna I have a bunch of video on my YouTube channel. Maybe I should put the link.
my whenever my colleagues at the old magazine used to come to San Francisco every year for the fancy food show, and they always would call me in advance and say, "Where should we eat? Where what are the cool restaurants?" And of course, I didn't know because I don't go out to all the hip new restaurants necessarily because they're very
Right.
expensive. So I would know some names, and I would also give them my favorites, and I would ask younger colleagues like, what are the hot new places? So I would give them. But a lot of times somebody would ask me, they'd say, so where can I get the best steak in the Bay Area? And I would always say, well, my house, because
Yeah, right. Steak is very important. So yeah, it's really good to cook it the right way, right? Because if not, it doesn't taste good.
yeah, and I like a good steak, and I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it on the rare side.
Yeah. Completely rare. Bleu.
Yeah, bleu. So that's it for this week. Next week, starting Monday, we're going to move to a 1 hour format. for people that just can't get enough. We're going to be on once a week, maybe more.
Once
And
a week for now. Let's see, because we're getting very busy, both of us.
yep,
So we have to figure out our show time.
I'm very busy today. I had to wash my hair, and it just took so long to do. And then I have to set it, and
Because
yeah,
it has to wait until it grows.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
the waiting part.
this all doesn't just happen by itself. This is a very intricate process. So,
Oh man.
anyway,
All
thanks
right, people.
these past few weeks. We will see you on Monday,
Monday,
and I can't wait.
you have to. We
Well,
all have to wait.
all right.